Salam, salam. Dakika Lember Better Israel. That means peace be unto all children of Israel, all around the world, in all the four corners of the earth. I send my salam greetings to all of you. And in our language we say, in Ge'ez we say, salam, salam Dakika Lember Better Israel, salam lel kuluku, which means peace be unto all of you. This is King Binyam Solomon of Lembebeda, Israel, and I'm speaking here from my royal cause in Santiago de Chile, in South America. I found it important to, first of all, to distinguish our royal dignitaries and to send salam greetings to all members of the royal executive body of this kingdom, and to send greetings to all the princes of the royal house, of the royal family, in the royal palace of this kingdom, and also to send salam greetings to all children of Israel in the diaspora and in the African continent. This is the message that goes to all children of Israel, wherever they are in the world, that they will be entitled to hearing this message. You will be able to have an opportunity to hear this message from the royal cause of the kingdom of Lembebeda Israel. As you know that we are in spring, according to our guest calendar that we follow every day, according to the moon phases, as we always teach on social media, we have come to closer to the day of Passover. That is very important in the tradition customs of the Better Israel people, that I feel it is important to pass this message from the calls about the preparations for the Passover feast that we will be celebrating on the 14th of this moon, which will be full moon of this moon that we call the moon of Megebe. And the moon of Megebe is the first moon in our calendar, and as it comes at this time, according to the seasons in Yemen, where we originally had come from, because we come from Yemen, from Senayi, the city of Senayi in Yemen, as ancient descendants of the ancient Israelites, and that according to the status of the seasons in Yemen, this is the spring season, and the spring, as it is known in our calendar, and the autumn, which is the fall in American English, it is the time of the equinoxes, where the nights and the days are of equal length. And so in that form, we will be able to say these are the equinoxes according to our calendar, and we have 182 days for the equinox, and then have 2 equinoxes in spring, and then we have the autumn or the fall equinox, and that makes exactly, not about, 364 days in a year in our liturgical cycle, a yearly liturgical cycle of the kingdom of Lembebeda Israel. And so we are literally trying to explain that the Passover feast is coming within a few days from now, which will be falling on the on the 14th day of this moon of Megebe. And that is, as you know, what the celebration of the Passover is all about, is the commemoration of the exodus of the children of Israel from the land of bondage in Gebetz, which is a place in Ethiopia, in the central highlands of Ethiopia, where there was a lot of barley and where barley was produced in large quantities. This is the place where the children of Israel were living in some kind of servitude because they did not have a king until at some point that the Amlak Laul, the Most High, appointed Moses, to go and lead them and be their leader and their king, to lead them back home to their homeland, which was in this case described as the Promised Land. And in fact, the Promised Land is the same land that was the native land of the people, where they originally had come from. And so we are here to commemorate this exodus, this great and glorious exodus of the children of Israel out of Gebetz. Yes, some of you may have said that, well, we are reading from the Greek Bible or from the Roman Bible that it was Egypt. Well, there was no such place at that particular time. We're talking about 1400 BC, around that time. There was no place by the name Egypt. And where Egypt is located today, according to our knowledge, because we are from the area originally, this is where we came from. So we are about to share the truth about the demographics, about the geographical facts about the place. Is that the land of Gebetz is actually located in what is now the Oromo region of eastern Ethiopia. Actually, it is now part of mostly the Oromo part, and then there is the part that is taken by the Amara as well, within the Central Highlands. Yes, and therefore it is important that we should be able to explain that the place was Gebetz, where mostly barley was produced. Barley. Gebetz is the name of barley, according to our native language, our native tongue, which is Gez. Yes, there were Gazian tribes that came out of this place, and they were in some kind of servitude and bondage and servants, working as servants here in the Central Highlands of Ethiopia, what we call Central Highlands of Ethiopia today, where they produce more barley. That's why sometimes if you look into some biblical versions, you will come across some of them saying it was Gebes. Yeah, but most of them say it was Mizraim. Yeah, well, not really, because Gebes, which is barley, Misor, yes, Mesir, which they say it is the land where they were, is actually not in reference to barley. Barley was the most important and the most notorious production in the area than anything else, because Mesir means lentils, and there were actually lentils produced actually on the other side, but not exactly where the children of Israel were located before they could go back home. So we are going to explain this in another segment of where the Exodus really started. But today's message is just to ask all children of Israel to get ready for this and prepare for this great occasion, for this great feast, to feast this victory of Exodus, a successful Exodus under Moses, crossing at the Red Sea, at Bab el-Madab, which was the gate of sorrows, the gate of tears, where the people had perished before because of an earthquake and the split of the tectonic plates that happened in the region in ancient time. And so that place was dangerous to cross at. And so this is where Moses had to cross And then the Almighty of Israel parted the waters to let the children go through. So we are celebrating this great exodus and this great, glorious movement of our people in ancient times in the history of our people. So we are going to ask everyone else to get ready to celebrate this in great joy and in showing the victory and the happiness of it. That it was a great success to have this exodus happening. And this exodus is fully explained in one of our books, which we shall be releasing soon, called Mesahafe Kufale, which means a book of the divisions of time, what some people call the Book of Jubilee. So Book of Jubilee will soon be released because we are trying to reissue our materials so that we can present our materials in the correct form, but not in the way that other people have presented us. So we want to present ourselves in the correct form that we should be presented in. And therefore, we are asking all children of Israel in all parts of the world, in every way, in every place they could be found, to get ready for this Passover. It's just a few days from now. It's just 4 days, because it will be on this Thursday of March, Gregorian date, because our 14th day falls on this week, Gregorian Thursday. So it is this Thursday that the evening of this Thursday will be the eve of the Passover, where we need to sacrifice a lamb that will be eaten according to the tradition and according to the events of the Passover that happened at that particular time. To eat the entirety of this lamb, the whole meat of the lamb, for preparation for the road, for the Exodus to travel, to walk the long distance to go home on foot to the land of promise, which was the native homeland of the Better Israel people, which is in Yemen. Many of you could have heard of the city called Sena. It is now abandoned in Yemen. It is called Sanau. This should not be mistaken for the Sanau in Oman, or it should not be mistaken for the city of Sana'a, which is the present capital of the country of Yemen. So it must not be mistaken for that. There is a city in the Hadramaut Valley of Yemen, in that Hadramaut Governorate, which is called Sena to this day, but it has been abandoned. This was the old ghost city of the Basena, who are the descendants of the ancient Israelites. That's where they came from. That's where all the patriarchs were born. That's where all the patriarchs came from this land of the city called Sena, which was in Asir. Asir is still known. The name Asir is still being used today in Saudi Arabia. Is one of the provinces in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, on the border with Yemen. Today we still have Asir, and this was the name that was given to the whole region of the ancient Israelites and their descendants. And this is where they moved from to go to Gebetz, which is in the central highlands of Ethiopia today, to seek refuge because of the drought that was happening in Yemen, because of the starvation that happened at that particular time in Yemen. So they had to seek refuge in Ethiopia, in this place that I call Eastern Ethiopia, or the central highlands of Ethiopia, where they produce a lot of barley. That's why the place is called Gebetz. Yes, so this is where they were looking for refuge because of starvation and suffering. They were refugees, just like refugees today are always seeking a place of refuge where they can be catered for and be taken care of, and they can meet other people of their lineage, of course. It always goes along with the people who share the same ancestral lineage, or maybe with a common ancestor, because the ancient Israelites were descendants of Gazan tribes, the Gazan ones. And the Gazan tribes had originated literally from Western Ethiopia. Yes, and so in this way, the promised land was actually in Yemen, and they moved there to Yemen with Moses parting the sea and the great miracle. So we are going to celebrate this in joy and happiness and triumph to say that we made it and we remember it greatly as our new year, the new year in Better Israel nation, in the new year in our culture, in our tradition, the new year in our history, the new year as of commemoration of a great success of a great nation. So, my people, this is the end of the message. Get ready and prepare yourself for the celebration of the Passover, which is called Fasika, which will begin on the 14th, and then we will celebrate again from the 15th to the 21st of this moon to make 7 days of the feast of Passover. Yes, the Passover lamb is eaten only in the evening of the 14th. Yeah, in a hurry, and the unleavened bread that has no yeast in it, and a drink of a beverage, which we call talabe in Ge'ez, which is made of honey and flaxseed seeds and water. And this is what we will be preparing, and I will ask every one of you to prepare the ingredients. We will post the ingredients of the beverage in our Facebook, in our social media platforms, to explain what must be taken on that day and how the lamb should be eaten, and that it's even now that it should be set aside without any disability. Yeah, the lamb must not have any disability. It must be a lamb that is physically fit and fresh and good for the Passover meal. And then the slaughtering of the lamb is slaughtered in the Better Israel way, where we slit the throat, and all the blood must be drained out completely. And then the lamb will be clean and ready to be eaten as a meal for Passover. And again, please understand that the lamb of Passover is not a sacrifice for atonement of sin of Better Israel people. No, it is a meal for the road. This must be made very clear. It is not a sacrifice for atonement of sins of Better Israel people or children of Israel. It is a meal for the road only. That's what the people must understand. Yes. It is not a sacrifice to El Amlak, the Most High, either, because sacrifices would mean that the whole animal has to go into the fire and not to be eaten by the people. That's what a sacrifice should look like. But this is not a sacrifice either. So it's not a sacrifice to the Most High to consume all of it in the fire. No. It is not for atonement of the children of Israel either. It is only a meal for the road. Thank you very much. And one more last thing that we need to tell you about this Passover lamb. We'll still give you more time and explain also on our social media platforms that the internal organs of the Passover lamb must not be eaten. They are very unclean. The skin, the head, the tail, the reproductive organs, the hooves must be burnt, including the internal organs, must be burnt in the fire, and then the ashes that are obtained from that must be thrown away and thrown to a place which is not frequently visited. Yeah, this is the tradition in Better Israel. You may not find this maybe in the book of Leviticus or whatever Greek recessions that you are reading, but according to Better Israel Mechafe Kedus, the internal organs of an animal of sacrifice or for food or for a meal must not be eaten. They are unclean. Yes. When it says that the whole animal must be eaten and be finished, it's talking about only the clean meat of the animal. Does not include the tail, does not include the head, does not include the hooves, does not include the internal organs, no intestines, no stomach contents. Must be eaten. It is unclean according to Beta Israel law of clean and unclean. Prepare yourself for the Passover. And recently we've just released the liturgy that you need to follow when you are celebrating feasts such as this or any other feast. We have songs, we have prayers for this feast. We have a whole system of how this feast should be celebrated in a book. And this book has just been released today, just been released yesterday actually. It is called the Kedasse Lemba Beta Israel, meaning the liturgy of Lemba Beta Israel. And then we also say this is the full Gez lunar calendar involved, in which we tell you what happens throughout the year, what feasts that you have, and what fasting. Throughout the whole year, we give you all the activities that need to be done, social or religious or what, or ritualistic or what, are all explained in that book. And the songs and the prayers are written out in the Ge'ez transliteration, and the English translations are also provided. So don't be worried and say, now I do not understand Ge'ez, so what am I going to do? So everything is explained in English, translated from Ge'ez to English. So there is no problem. Just go into Amazon. We'll give you the link at the bottom of this video to be able to get yourself a copy of this liturgy so that you will be able to read and follow it during the feast of Passover. Because if you don't have the liturgy, you wouldn't know what prayer you must pray on the Passover, what song must be sung on the Passover, and what must be done on Passover. So this book explains the whole procedure of the celebrations of feast and fast in Beta Israel for the whole year, including the Passover. Thank you very much, children of Israel, for listening to me. I hope you'll prepare yourself and have this big, wonderful commemoration of the Passover of Israel. Salam, salam. This is King Binyamin Solomon of Lemba Beta Israel. Senayi Fasika.